Today I'm going to work on assignment 2, which is creating some 60s style lettering reminiscent of the psychedelic era of design where they conformed a lot of type into shapes. So um, there are a lot of reasons you might want to do this. Here's an example from years ago where we conformed the shape, conform type into the shape of Henry Johnson's guitar for a jazz poster. Uh, Lots of other options that you can do. So first thing you need to do is create a letter-sized document. Doesn't matter if it's portrait or landscape, and create a 4-inch circle in the center of the artboard. Fill it with black with no stroke. So remember, when you draw an object like an ellipse or a rounded corner rectangle or a rectangle, uh, the fill is the large black or the large square, and then you've got the stroke here in your tools palette also. So I've got mine set for black fill, no stroke. And you can change that right up here if you wanted to add a stroke or change the color of the fill. So we're going to create a 4-inch circle. I'm just going to click here and type in 4 inches by 4 inches. And I'm going to move it to around the center. It doesn't have to be exactly in the center, but you can just click in the center and drag it. That you don't have to change tools because it changes for you when you to help you move it around or transform the shape that you've already drawn. Next, we're going to cut this object into 3 different shapes using the pen tool to create some lines to do that. So it tells you to use the pen tool to create a curved line that bisects the circle, which means cuts it in half, and that's going to define where we're going to separate these shapes. You need to use a blue line with a 6-point stroke. That will help you see it when you make your cuts. So I'm going to first, this is selected still. You can see the handles on the box and you can see the blue dot in the center. So I'm going to hold down Control or Command and click off of it. Command on a Mac. And that will deselect my object so that when I go to my pen tool, now I'm going to be creating a brand new object. I'm still on a black fill with no stroke, and if I'm drawing with the pen tool, it's the stroke that is going to show. So I'm going to make a blue stroke that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to take the fill to none. So no fill, but a blue stroke. Now, remember, the pen tool draws lines. Well, doesn't draw lines. It makes sets points that lines are drawn in between. So basically, we're going to set 3 points to create a curved line that bisects this circle. So I'm gonna click. I'm not gonna hold down or anything. I'm just gonna move to the center here. What I feel like is the center. And I'm gonna click. And I'm gonna drag a little curve here. Not a big curve. Let's start with kind of a small curve. And to do that, as you drag, just go to the lower right of your point and it will create this curve and put these handles on it. So I'll do that. Then I'll come back up here. And as you can see, I can get it directly in line with the other point if I allow Illustrator to show me the line there with that magenta guide. So I'm just gonna, I don't have to click and drag to make another curve. All I have to do is click. Okay, so just click and it draws the other line for you and follows that handle. Now you're still selected, so you've got what looks like you're going to make another point. You can end that by just holding Control or Command on a Mac and clicking off of the object. Now, you need to duplicate that line so that we have 2 of them so we can use them in cutting up this shape. And I'm going to go ahead and just grab the selection tool. I'm going to move this one up a little bit, and then I'm going to Alt drag or Option drag that object down to create another object just like it. Another line just like the one on top. And I'm going to kind of separate them what I think, how I want my text to conform. Um, now, with we, if I zoom in here, you'll see we have a line with stroke on either side of it. That's really not what I want. I would like to have that shape more like a curvy, long rectangle. So I'm going to select each of the shapes. Well, I can draw a little marquee around those two. Don't get the circle, just get the two lines. Or I can shift click. I can click one, hold down shift, and click the other, and I select both of the lines. And I'm going to go up here and choose Object, Path, Outline the Stroke. Now what that's going to do is it's going to move the path from inside. If I do Control Z, you'll see it moves it from the inside with a stroke to the outside. I'm going to redo the outline stroke, and you'll see that it moves that path out here to the outside. So now we have objects, shapes, instead of lines with stroke on them. So now we have shapes. Now we're going to be sure and display your pathfinder. If it's not on your toolbar over here, you need to come over and do Window Pathfinder. And then you're going to select all the things. You're going to select the circle and both lines. Again, you can just draw a marquee around it, or you can do the shift clicking and click them all. So I'm going to click and select all three, and I'm going to choose the minus front button from the Pathfinder palette. Okay, that's going to subtract these two lines from this black object. All right, so if you hold over, you'll see you get, well, there's unite, there's minus front. That's what I want to use. These tooltips can be turned off and on in your preferences, and it's good to have them on if you kind of forget, if you don't use the Pathfinder a lot. So I'm going to click minus front, and you're going to see that that shape, those lines were taken out of the shape. Now those shapes are three distinct shapes. Now they're still grouped together, but they're three separate shapes. So I need to go up here and say Object Ungroup, or Shift Control G. Now that makes each shape into its own object. Okay, so be sure it's deselected, and we're going to create some type to put into these shapes. I'm going to use my text tool, type tool here, and I'm going to create three separate type objects, one to put in each. And I'm going to use a heavy typeface, but they need to be three separate. So just click outside of your object, don't click on top of your object, and type whatever word it is you want to put here. So I'm going to put the word peace. Let's see, I think I'll use something heavy like impact. I know that's probably on your machine. Impact. There we go. Peace. Now, that's one. I could click and drag, or option drag, or alt drag, and make another one, because these need to be separate. They can't be all, you can't just return and type another word. Let's put love. Click off of that. I can go back to type, click one, peace, love, and cookies. There we go. Or let's put Coke. That works. It's kind of a small shape down there. Peace, love, and Coke. All right. So now I've got three. It doesn't really matter what size they are, because they're going to conform to this shape. So grab those three, and with them selected, go to Object, Arrange, Send to the Back. They were the last things you created, so they're actually in the front. But the way we use this envelope distort is the top object is what you make is the shape you want your text to conform to. So we're going to click one of the shapes or the type, sorry, piece, and I'm going to shift click the first or top shape in my object. And then I'm going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with the top object. So again, we select the type that we want to use, we shift click the shape we want to conform it to, and then we go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with the top object. It'll put that into your, conform it into your shape. It's kind of like magic. So we'll do the same thing for each of the other shapes. Shift click, Object, Envelope Distort, Make with the top object. And then click, shift click, Object, Envelope, Make with the top object. Okay? Now, if you want, you can change this type. Uh, you can click your text and edit it. You can select one of the objects here. Let's try this. Oops. So I'm going to select each of these objects here. I'll select Coke. And we can change the color of it if we'd like. We can just use either, you can go up to Object, Envelope Distort, edit the contents. That works. There you get the word Coke. You could change the color of it with your stroke palette, or you could even with your type tool, you could come in there and change the word that it uses if you'd like to. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of customize it even after you've and maybe after you've changed the color, maybe you want to change the actual word. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to grab my type tool, highlight Coke, and type instead puppies. So, you know, just depends on what you want to do of how you customize your shape. Then once you have finished your shape, I want you to just save it out as a PDF and upload it to Dropbox. Be sure to name it file, save as in Illustrator. We'll call it your name, Mike Brown underscore type shapes dot. Oh, I have to put dot, and I'm going to choose PDF. Save. Save it. And just be sure to upload it to the link that's provided.